calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. Our whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Next.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation of supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
Hey, what do you say? It's Thursday, May 26th. So good to see you today. Thanks for joining us. Here on the Bill Press Show, we are located live right here in Washington, D.C., but we're there with you wherever you are in this great land of ours on Free Speech TV and worldwide on our video stream. Talker, youtube.com/Talker, TawkrTV. Hello, good to have you with us. It was a bad day yesterday for former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. A report by the Inspector General of the State Department contradicts what she's been saying about her use of a private server for her emails when she was Secretary of State. She has said all along it was totally authorized by State Department rules. The Inspector General report says that is just the opposite. It was not authorized. She never sought permission to use a private server, and if she had sought permission, she would have been denied permission. That's not good for Hillary Clinton, but at the same time, the report gives her a little bit of breathing room in the sense that it says while she broke the rules, she did not break the law, that she was not the first Secretary of State to use a private server. Colin Powell did as well, and that the real problem is there's a systematic weakness in State Department computer systems, which has been going on for a long time. So those who expected an indictment of Hillary Clinton are not going to get it. It ain't gonna happen. Bernie Sanders was right in the first place when he said the American people are tired of hearing about your damn emails. And he said yesterday he's not going to talk about them. He's going to continue to barnstorm up and down California, where he is now tied in the polls with Hillary Clinton for that big primary on June 7. If Bernie wins California, that could blow the Democratic convention wide open. All that we'll talk about today here on the Bill Press Show. That and a lot more.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi.
How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
The emails come back again to haunt Hillary Clinton. Hello, everybody. Here we go. Thursday, May 26th. How about it? Good to see you today. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about today. That's why it's good to see you. And you'll be happy you joined the Bill Press Show here as we sort through it all over the next 3 hours. We're booming out to you live from Washington, D.C. in our little nest here on Capitol Hill. There with you on your local progressive talk radio station nationwide, coast to coast, and also on Free Speech TV. Thank you for joining us in Radioland. Good to be with you. Remember, if you don't have a progressive radio station near you, that shouldn't stop you. It doesn't stop you. Download the radio app TuneIn. It's free. Or iHeartRadio. It's free as well. It'll connect you right away to the Bill Press Show. And you can also watch us, of course, on Free Speech TV. You can, most importantly, we invite you to join in the conversation. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter. Get it off your chest at BP Show or on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. And the team, entire team assembled here today. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Here we go.
Hey. Fresh from the Nats game yesterday.
Man.
What the hell happened?
Boy, they looked terrible yesterday.
You guys are too busy eating hot dogs, and you were not giving the team enough support. But Jamie told me he had a Greek. I thought they were called gyro. No,
hero.
I never know the correct pronunciation.
The correct pronunciation.
That's why I don't order
hero.
It is hero,
but it's spelled Gyro.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
but you don't go to a ball game for a hero. You go to a ball game for a hot dog.
I went for the beer.
To be fair, the hero had fried chicken in it, so I'm still very much an American.
Yeah, exactly. We certainly Americanized it. Yeah.
What was the final score?
2-0.
Ooh.
Nationals had a couple of good shots. Even at the bottom of the ninth, they had men on and had an opportunity, but boy, they just couldn't get the bats going.
I know.
And Bryce Harper was having a mental day off.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was gloom over the Press household yesterday. So
it was an ugly game.
And Carol blamed the two of you for it because she knew you were there. Right. Ray Rogers is on the job with the phones ready for your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Cyprian Bolding is on the job. That's why those of you watching on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV can see us thanks to Cyprian. You know, it looks like we're not going to have a debate between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders in California. Although now that the latest poll came out yesterday showing California and a dead heat between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, Hillary may have some second thoughts about having a debate, right? Now she may feel she needs one. But for now, she's turned it down. And so last night on Jimmy Kimmel raised the possibility of a debate between Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. Wouldn't that be worth watching?
Yes or no? He wants to know if you will debate him.
Yes, I am. How much is he going to pay me?
You would do it for a price? What would the price be?
Yeah, because if I debated him, we would have such high ratings, and I think I should take that money and give it to some worthy charity, okay?
So if it was done for charity, you would agree to do that?
If he he paid a nice sum toward a charity, I would love to do that.
Oh, interesting. What if the network put up the money and then you guys came in?
That could happen also.
That could
in fact,
happen.
I've been saying that should happen anyway.
Oh,
by the way, this is another part of Donald Trump's swindle, right? Because he did this BS
on the vets.
And it turns out that all that money he claims to have raised didn't go to the vets.
No.
So he's looking to make another buck.
Of course. No. This just proves that Donald Trump is what we've always said, a whore. And he will do anything for money, right?
There you go.
There you go. Okay. And he said it himself. Of course, I call myself a media whore, so that's a term of love, Donald, before you sue me, before you call and raise hell. Okay. By this Thursday, Susan Paige, USA Today, will be joining us, and then a member of Congress, Sean Patrick Maloney, young member from New York. He'll be along, as well as Joe Cirincione from the Plowshares Fund. We haven't had Joe in for a while to talk foreign policy. And yes, let's take a look at that email report. How bad is it? Any good news at all for Hillary Clinton? But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Okay, so in 1960, the percentage of 18 to 34-year-olds living with their spouse in their own household was 62%. Okay, so 62% of all 18 to 34-year-olds lived on their own with a spouse, married people. In 1960. 20% still lived with their parents. So the new numbers are out for the year 2014, and for the first time in modern history, 18 to 34-year-olds or millennials living with their parents actually outnumber those with other living arrangements. So in 2014, 32% of millennials live with their parents, 32%, and 31% are married or cohabitating in their own household, 14% live alone, and 20% have other living arrangements.
To which I say, grow up. Get out of the house.
Yeah.
First of all, the parents should kick them out of the house.
I agree.
Seriously. Kick them out of the house. Get a job.
Yeah.
Low life.
When I first graduated, I wanted to go home and save money, and my mom said, nope, you're going to stay in D.C.
Good.
You can't come home.
Good. Yeah, I think that's the right thing.
Absolutely. What are they thinking?
32%. I mean, that's a big number of people who still live with their parents. Can you imagine being 34 years old living with your parents?
Mommy, can I bring my girlfriend home tonight? Yes, as long as you sleep in separate bedrooms.
Yeah, Mommy, I'm going to hang a tie on my door if I have a girl over. All right, so in San Francisco, Bill, an area you know well, Hangar One Vodka is sort of a regional vodka there, right? Which we all know. I mean, it's widely available. Mm-hmm. But they've done something that's very, very unique to San Francisco. They have made a bottle of vodka out of San Francisco's fog. Listen, this is how they do it. They have fog catchers, which are almost like vacuums, right? They suck the fog in to their facility, and they turn that into fresh water, which they then use in the distilling process to make their vodka. It sells for $125 per bottle. Whoa. And they call it, quote, true expression of California distilled.
That legitimately upsets me.
That is doing too much. That's the definition of doing too much. And there are lots of world leaders that are in.
You can get it both ways. See, you can get your vodka martini and then step out in the fog.
Drink a martini in the fog.
And inhale the fog at the same time.
That's a good idea. That's a compromise. That's a compromise.
Cheaper.
There are plenty of world leaders in Japan for the big G7 summit, and Justin Trudeau of Canada is one of them. But he is making waves because he said on Wednesday he was not going to appear publicly. He was not going to participate in any of the meetings because he was going to take a day off and celebrate his anniversary with his wife. Now, this has caused a lot of people to sort of weigh in, right? When you're a world leader, right? You go on these business trips. You're sort of on business. But he said he's going to pay for all of this out of his own personal funds, and he believes in a good work-life balance. Quote, this is the kind of work-life balance that I've often talked about as being essential in order to be able to be in service of the country with all one's very best, and that's certainly something I'm going to continue to make sure that we do. That is the quote from Justin Trudeau.
You know what? I like that, and he'll get away with it too.
Of course, he'll get away with it. Yeah, I mean it's interesting,
They'll go
right?
to some little Japanese spa or something like
Sure.
that for a day. Yeah,
Sure.
All right. Justin can do no wrong in my book, at any rate. Yes, indeed, it was the last thing Hillary Clinton needed. That bombshell that dropped yesterday from the Inspector General of the State Department. You've probably heard about it by now. The Inspector General, Mark Toner, releasing his report, long-awaited report, long-feared report on the part of some people in the Clinton campaign. And the report, I'll get to this, not entirely all bad, but looks bad for sure. The report says, number one, that contrary to whatever Hillary Clinton has been saying for the last almost a year, we've been dealing with this, that the use of a private server for her email was not authorized by State Department rules. In fact, it was against State Department rules. The report also says that she never asked permission to use that email server, and to do it all with a private email server, and if she had asked permission, she would not have been given permission. The report also says that she refused to cooperate with the people at the State Department who were conducting this investigation. All of that certainly looks bad. Inspector Mark Toner putting out the word yesterday.
We could have done a better job at preserving emails and records of secretaries of state and their senior staff going back, frankly, several administrations. So back to before Secretary Clinton.
Yeah, so we'll get to that. It was partly a result of loose rules at the State Department. He's admitting that. But he also says again on the point of, did she ask permission? Nope.
Senior State Department officials, noted in the report, said they wouldn't have approved her exclusive reliance on a personal email to conduct official business.
The Clinton campaign right away said this report sort of almost exonerates what they've been saying all along. There's nothing really new in it. Hillary Clinton herself spoke out last night on Univision, where in a report, in an interview, she says, "Look, this just shows I didn't do anything other people hadn't done."
Just like previous secretaries of state, I used a personal email. Many people did. It was not at all unprecedented.
Many, and she says, "Don't worry, it's not going to slow me down."
It's not an issue that is going to affect either the campaign or my presidency.
Donald Trump, of course, saw this as a green light to continue attacking Hillary in every speech as crooked Hillary.
She's as crooked as they come. She had a little bad news today, as you know, from some reports came down weren't so good.
So, believe me, some bad news. Yeah. What does it all mean? Well, first of all, look, it is not good news for Hillary Clinton. She tries to put the best spin on it. It's not good news. It's not good news because this is now dominating all the media, front page of every newspaper in the land. This is what people are talking about. It buries her message, puts her on the defensive, as we just heard. And this is going to dog her all the way through November. And it feeds into that, even with zero evidence, it feeds into that narrative of Donald Trump's, of crooked Hillary, of the Clintons always feeling that they are above the law somehow. So you can't spin it too positive. This is bad news for Hillary. It is serious. And also it's worth pointing out, this ain't the end of the road. We still have the FBI investigation, which is still underway. They'll get that report sometime in the middle of the summer, probably, maybe sooner. And there's a civil lawsuit filed by this right-wing wacko organization called Judicial Watch, where Cheryl Mills and Huma Abedin, two of the top aides, have already been called to testify, and the judge says he might want Hillary Clinton to testify in that as well, and then she might have to give an interview to the FBI. So this is not the end of the road. But, before the Clinton haters get too gleeful about this, it's also worth pointing out that in some respects, this State Department Inspector General report actually exonerates Hillary Clinton because it says, first of all, as we just heard, that there are these lax rules at the State Department that go way, 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 way back. The phrase was, I think, systematic. Don't have it right here, but it was systematic weaknesses in the system, number one. Number two, it points out that she's not the first Secretary of State to do this. Colin Powell did as well. He used a private email server, and nothing really happened to him. And thirdly, it does reaffirm that while she did break State Department rules, she did not break the law. So those people who are waiting for Hillary to get indicted, thinking that that's the only way Republicans can win the White House, it's not going to happen. Breaking the rules of the department is not the same as breaking the law. So, again, it would have been better if this report hadn't come down. And mostly, it would have been better if Hillary hadn't done this in the first place.
Yeah.
We are always amazed, aren't we, how smart people can do such dumb things. It was a big mistake for Hillary to set up this private server in the first place. What was she thinking? She knew she might run for president someday. And she has said herself that if she had to do it all over again, she would not make the same decision. But sadly, she did. And so, in a sense, she's got to live with it. But, I think, what it really proves? Bernie Sanders was right last October. The American people are sick and tired of hearing about your damn emails.
Yep.
Okay, you did something dumb. You set up the private server. You didn't jeopardize our national security. You didn't break the law. Move on. Find another issue. To me, that's the real message of this Inspector General report. Broke the rules of the State Department, did not break the law, made a mistake, move on, find another issue. This one is dead, even despite the Inspector General's report. Maybe I read it wrong. Maybe you think it's the fatal blow for Hillary Clinton. I don't. 866-55-PRESS. By the way, Bernie Sanders says he doesn't care about this report. He's still not going to talk about the emails. He said that last night in California. What do you think? How bad is it for Hillary? 86 or bad at all. 866-55-PRESS.
Your place to talk about the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. The whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
Say something that may not be great politics, but I think the Secretary is right. And that is that the American people are sick and tired of hearing about your damn emails.
Thank you. Me too.
This is the Bill Press Show.
That was Larry David at his best. Doesn't it sound exactly like Larry David?
It's pretty good.
I'm telling you. Bernie
pretty good.
does a good Larry Sanders imitation. Yes, indeed. But Bernie said that last October in the first Democratic debate, and he just about said the same thing last night through his spokesperson, Michael Briggs, and then Jeff Weaver during the day. Didn't hear Bernie himself talk about it. But do you think Bernie's right, or does this Inspector General report really change things? I think when you read it carefully, it says, yeah, dumb mistake, but that was it. Robert, down in Lawrence, South Carolina. Hey, Robert. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah.
I feel that Hillary Clinton rescued a baby from a burning building. The Republicans would put a negative spin on it.
No, they would, right? Why didn't she rescue the whole family? Or I don't know what they would say, but so do you think this hurts her, Robert?
Pardon?
Do you think this hurts her, this report?
Yes.
Yeah. You got to admit that. It just means so it's going to be, another week. Thank you, Robert, for the call. Another week of talking about this, right? Or even 2 or 3 days when she'd rather be talking about California.
Yeah.
And she'd rather be moving the ball forward, which is, again, why I think Bernie Sanders is smart not to get into this. Hillary Clinton, fatal blow or just a bump in the road? The new email report, 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek, Newtown,
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
Enough.
Enough. Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad, as a friend, as a husband,
As a wife.
as an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 You taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi!
How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Here we go now at 34 minutes after the hour. Talking about the impact of the Inspector General's report from the State Department's Inspector General report, saying some pretty damaging stuff for Hillary Clinton. It's a serious issue. Don't mean to wipe it away at all. That she violated State Department rules, that she didn't ask for permission to use a private server, and that she should have turned all the emails over when she walked out of the office, and she did not. But having said that, the report also says that it was really the State Department's lax computer regulate or rules that created this problem, that she wasn't the first secretary because of those lax system or systematic failures to bypass it. Colin Powell did the same thing. And most significantly, while she did break the law rules, she did not break the law. Now, that decision is being made now by the FBI, but I think the Inspector General's report is a pretty good indication that the FBI will find the same thing, because their lawyers are certainly talking back and forth. But it is a serious problem. It means this is not going to go away, and it does mean she's probably going to be explaining it every time she turns around. And sadly, it gives Donald Trump more ammunition to go out and say, see, I told you so, right? Crooked Hillary. No crooked there, but Donald Trump can feed into that. Meanwhile, on the campaign trail yesterday, Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders were both in California. Hillary almost sounding like Bernie, saying, we need a big turnout.
We need a big turnout in California because I want to send a message that California, which is a diverse, big, dynamic state, is looking at the future.
Mm-hmm. And Bernie Sanders kind of making the same point. Of course, he's been he depends on a big voter turnout and new people coming into the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders saying, okay, California, now it's your turn.
Let this great state, one of the most progressive states in America, tell the world you are ready for the political revolution. Thank you.
By the way, the latest poll in California shows, and you know, again, I'm speaking as former Democratic chair of California, and California is known as, and has been for the last 20 years, really Clinton territory. Bill Clinton, when he was president and I was state chair, he came out there all the time. He loved California. We always kidded with him that he could now vote in California. He was there so many times, but he would also have to pay California taxes. We used to laugh about that. It is considered Clinton country, and Hillary Clinton beloved as First Lady and as Senator from New York. She's out there all the time. She's got broad support in the Hollywood community, Silicon Valley, and the San Francisco Bay Area. Again, known as Clinton country, but the latest poll shows Bernie Sanders is really moving up fast. It is now a dead heat, absolute statistical tie, 46-44 between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders in California. With 546 delegates at stake on June 7, Bernie Sanders could win California. And if he does, I think that's going to shake up the whole superdelegate question. For his part, Donald Trump, also in California, in Anaheim, California, you know, he can't resist insulting and making fun of people. That's basically how he won the nomination.
Yes.
He didn't put out any big ideas, or well, yeah, he did, right? Banning all Muslims and building a wall. I mean, those are hardly ideas that people look forward and say, oh boy, our country is going to be in great shape under Donald Trump. There were no big ideas. There were no big issues. It was just a round of insults that effectively mowed everybody down. Well, it looks like that's the kind of general campaign he's going to run as well, because yesterday he turned aimed his big guns at Mitt Romney, who has turned out to be the most never Trump, #NeverTrump person around, right?
Yeah.
I mean, after that speech, remember a couple of months ago that Mitt Romney gave where he just savaged Donald Trump. He hasn't let up. He tried to find somebody to run against Donald Trump, and he couldn't. So now basically he's saying, well, I've given that up, but I'm never going to support this guy. Never, 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 never. So Donald Trump goes after him in typical Donald Trump fashion.
And you know the truth, I hate to say it, I hope we don't have too many in the audience. Once a choker, always a choker. And I was nasty about it. So now, as retribution, Donald Trump shouldn't run, and he walks like a penguin onto the stage. You ever seen? Like a penguin. But it's all right. Who knows?
But it's all right. It's the equivalent of like, bless his heart. But he walks like, and he's doing this. He walks like this when he walks like a penguin. But that's all right. Bless his heart.
So he called him a choker back in 2000, and he's the 12, and he thinks this is Mitt Romney's retribution, right? I'm telling you.
Oh, man.
There's one other.
Walks like a penguin.
Walks like a penguin. So every time I see Mitt Romney from now on, right, I'm going to think about a penguin.
I know. Seriously, it'll be stuck.
He had Trump, you must admit, he's got a way of looking at people and thinking, what's the perfect.
What sticks?
Remember George W. Bush used to give people nicknames.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And his nicknames always sort of like fit, you know, like David Gregory was Stretch.
Right. Because he's so tall.
He's so tall. And Bill Salmon from Fox was Big Stretch.
Super Stretch. He was Super Stretch
because
he was a little bit taller.
He was taller, right. And Karl Rove was Turd Blossom.
That's right. That's right.
But he gave a lot of people nicknames like that.
He gave you a nickname. We can't repeat it on air.
That's true. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just want to mention one other thing that wasn't exactly on the campaign trail, but Leader Pelosi gave a news conference yesterday, and you've heard me talk about this so many times. Super delegates, and when Bernie says the convention could be messy, what he means is there could be some debates about some issues that a lot of Democrats don't want to have to deal with, and one of the issues is super delegates. Hillary doesn't like them because they really got in her way in 2008. Bernie 2008, yeah. Bernie doesn't like them because they all went to Hillary before she even announced here in 2016, and he's trying to get them to take another look at this and maybe change their mind. Nancy Pelosi yesterday, for the second time in a week, saying she thinks it's time to take a look at these superdelegates and maybe get rid of them.
I do think that this unease says that this party should revisit the delegates' election rules.
Yeah. For her to say that leaves it wide, wide open. Susan Paige, and nobody follows this whole scene closer than Susan Paige, Washington bureau chief for USA Today, standing by to join us in the next segment.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
For my 6th birthday, my grandpa gave me a Rubik's Cube. I'll always be able to remember its edges, hold it in my hands, heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I remember him telling me about it. How Rubik's Cube has 43 quintillion, 252 quadrillion, 3 trillion, 274 billion, 489,856,000 possibilities. He told me it can be really confusing sometimes. But to look at the center squares as a reminder of what color each side should be. Shift. We're celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary. He and Grandma are dancing a dance that only fragile legs and wrinkled hands know how to. That type of happiness took him 70 years to earn. The white side of the cube is solved. Shift. He tells me about how he met Grandma. His college friends had a sunset picnic. She was there, as beautiful as an unsolved puzzle. She was a red-headed scramble on an orange tile sky. Shift. The walls of the hospital are blue. The nurses explain that his memories had become jumbled. Strangers in family portraits, pictures with mismatched faces. Alzheimer's has made his mind into a Rubik's Cube. Shift. He's a highway patrolman. His car is white. No, it's blue. He worked there for 30 years. Some nights he still does. Time is a complicated algorithm. Shift. The pills he holds are yellow and red and green. The weight of their color causes his hand to drop. I try to shift his tiles back into place, but people don't have center squares. His mind is a hospital bed divided by 0. Shift. My sister's wedding is white, but he doesn't know why. Shift. World War II is every color. The South Pacific is blue. The islands are green. There is so much red. Shift. Grandpa, table, cube, name, scramble, California, guitar, grapefruit, highway, wedding bell, war, stick shift rifles, South Pacific mirrors, shift, 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 shift. The temperature of his hands is blue. Death is colorless. I will always remember his edges. Hold him in my hands. Heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I was unable to attend his funeral. I never found out the algorithm to solve him. A Rubik's Cube has over 43 quintillion possibilities. A casket only has one.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go now at 13 minutes before the top of the hour. It is The Bill Press Show. We love Thursdays because we get to check in with our good friend Susan Paige, Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today. And Susan, how are you?
Hey, Bill, I love Thursdays because it's one day away from Friday.
That's the best reason of all, right. Susan, this is the last thing Hillary Clinton needed at this point, right? The Inspector General report yesterday. How bad is it?
The only good thing you can say about it is that it came out in May, not in October, right? Would have been worse then. But despite the statement that her campaign put out saying that this is all consistent with what she said in the past, there are a series of things in this report that reinforce the idea that Hillary Clinton did not play by the rules.
Yeah, it contradicts her statement that that this was authorized by State Department rules, right?
Yeah, and when in the statement that she put out her campaign put out yesterday, they don't repeat that assertion which she's made in the past because the report finds that there's no evidence that it was approved by anybody, and that in fact people were admonished to stop talking about it when they raised concern.
Well, and it's not the end of the road, right? We still have the FBI investigation underway.
Yeah, the FBI investigation, a much more serious matter than this report. And we don't know when the FBI investigation is going to come out. That could come out at a more problematic time for her. I don't think this is a huge deal. I don't think people who like Hillary Clinton are going to say, oh, look at this IG report, I'm going to vote against her. But it's not helpful, and it goes to her most fundamental weakness, which is that some people say they just don't think she's honest and trustworthy.
Exactly, right. And it also, even without any evidence, I think it plays right into Crooked Hillary, right? That theme of that you can't trust her because they think they're above the law, they do things wrong, all that kind of stuff, right? It's not helpful for sure.
Yeah. No.
And by the way, I had forgotten about this, but in writing about this yesterday, there's also this Judicial Watch lawsuit that's going on where Cheryl Mills and Huma Abedin have been called to testify, and the judge has said he may want Hillary to testify. So this is going to dog her all the way through November, isn't it?
I think that's true. And I thought one surprise in this report yesterday was that Secretary Clinton and some of her top aides declined to be interviewed for her.
Yes.
She has said in the past she's going to cooperate fully with these investigations, and in this case, I think it's hard to make the case that she has cooperated fully. And as you said in some of these other legal actions, they may not have the choice to choose not to be interviewed.
Right. Yeah, it is strange. I found that too, that she said to fully cooperate with the FBI, but she did not cooperate with the State Department attorneys, and they mentioned that in the report. Now, one other, by the way, we got to mention, I was asked yesterday on CNN whether I thought Bernie Sanders was going to make a big deal out of this, and not having talked to the senator, I said I didn't think so. And he that's where he landed yesterday, saying the report speaks for itself. I'm not going to talk about the emails. So
well, he's been consistent with that
Yes,
against his own political interests.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the reasons Sanders supporters like him, don't you think?
Yeah.
He's got some issues. He talks about those issues, sometimes endlessly. That's his focus. That's what he cares about. And that probably provides some guidance for what he might want if he's not going to be the nominee in exchange for endorsing her, embracing her, campaigning for her.
Now, and speaking about party unity in that direction, one thing that suddenly has popped up is that maybe the way to bring both sides together is to force Debbie Wasserman Schultz to walk the plank. I mean, I was amazed yesterday at how quickly this whole thing kind of bubbled up, right? And
yeah, well, he's been, of course, very critical of her for putting his thumb on the scale for Hillary Clinton. I don't know.
The reports are that this movement is being fueled by Democratic senators who support Hillary Clinton.
Well, we'll see. Do you think she's on her way out?
I think I don't know, but I think she could be. Claire McCaskill, who was the very first Democratic senator to support Hillary Clinton, right?
Yes.
She yesterday said, when asked whether she supported Debbie Wasserman Schultz, she said it's up to the chairwoman to make a decision about whether how she could best serve the party or something like that. And I thought, oh, man.
Yeah, that's not much of an embrace. Well, we'll see. On the other hand, I think Nancy Pelosi came out and said she was doing a good job and was positive. And, one risk for Democrats, if your focus is on winning in November, does it matter who the chair of the Democratic National Committee is?
Here's why it does.
It may matter that if that's going to be the price that Bernie Sanders wants to be a really enthusiastic campaigner for, but it's hard to me. You know what? I don't think voters are saying, I can't vote for Hillary Clinton because Debbie Wasserman Schultz is chairman of the Democratic National Committee.
Susan, here's why I think it does. Because Philadelphia, at the convention, the last thing you want is for the chair to take the stage and get booed off the stage, or roundly booed. That would be bad television, right?
That just reflects your extensive knowledge of politics. It would be a really bad thing. It would definitely be a bad thing. And, they don't need a chaotic convention.
No,
and they're not yet at a place where you're guaranteed they're not going to have one.
No, so if you had a Nancy Pelosi presiding or a Sherrod Brown or somebody like that, I think, everything would be peaceful. It wouldn't be with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Hey, I got to ask you quickly before we go, though. How successful is Donald Trump being in uniting the party? I've been surprised at how many people seem to be coming around.
I think Republican voters seem to be sometimes reluctantly uniting behind him. He's winning overwhelmingly. There's no backlash to him in these final contests where he's basically running unopposed.
Yeah.
I think some of the elites are not yet quite there, but we are at a situation where Republicans unbelievably seem more united than Democrats.
Yeah, isn't that strange? And you talked to Vice President Hickenlooper this week.
Now that we're settled more or less on the nominees for president, all this focus now on the possible nominees for vice president, which is a different kind of campaign because you have an electorate of one you're trying to appeal to. I interviewed Governor Hickenlooper, who has a new book out called The Opposite of Woe, which is a great title. And it seemed to me he was trying to make the case that he would be an excellent running mate.
From Colorado, huh?
From a swing state, a two-term Western governor.
Where pot is legal.
Yes.
Oh, man. The Naval Observatory would never be the same if we have a pot-smoking governor as vice president. Oh, boy. All right, Susan, we covered a lot of ground. Now, this is officially your Friday. You have the whole weekend ahead of you now, Susan.
I am unplugging.
All right. Thanks, Susan. Always good to talk to you. Susan Paige, Washington Bureau Chief, USA Today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Every day when I was 5, my older sister would play teacher. Her students were me, my stuffed rabbit, and an American Girl doll. She'd line us up at the end of the bed and teach us whatever she'd learned in school that day. Now she teaches ESL at an elementary school in Boston, and every week she tells me stories about her students. Anna does not know how to read in Spanish, much less English, but she still wants to be a writer when she grows up. Juan chooses to stay inside and study at recess so that one day he'll be able to teach his own brother. These kids are good organs in a sick body. In 2001, No Child Left Behind gutted bilingual education. Students who have been in the country for 1 year are now expected to perform at grade level on standardized English tests. My sister is not allowed to instruct them in Spanish. If the kids don't jump high enough, the school loses money. Improving a school by picking its pockets is like tuning a guitar by ripping off the strings. Learning to read in a new language before you can even read in your own is like learning to walk while a pit bull is chasing you. Like learning to sing with the conductor's fist down your throat. This year for my sister's birthday, I got books for her students. A poem on one page in Spanish, the next in English. She is not allowed to help them read the first. Their heritage is a banned book. Learning to read in a new language when you can't even read in your own is like trying to heal a burn victim by drowning them. We are telling these children who have spent their whole lives in the deep end that they'll learn how to swim if they just float out a little farther. In the 1980s, American slaughterhouses began building corrals in curves so no animals could see the blood at the end of the tracks. This is how we kept them moving forward. In 2001, we began building the hallways of our schools in curves. This is how we keep them moving forward. You never learn, you fail the test. You never learn, you fail the test. You never learn, you drop out. I know I am lucky enough to be one of the winners of this game. I was handed a head start and a rule book in my own tongue, but the winners of a rigged game should not get to write the rules. On the television, some senator preaches that throwing money at an urban school is like feeding caviar to your dog. They just won't know how to appreciate it. After all, if these parents can't take care of their own children, why should we? Well, tell that to Anna, who has my sister translate newsletters aloud to her father because he too was never taught how to read. Tell that to Juan, whose mother and baby brother are still in Guatemala, whose father works 3 jobs. My sister tells me school is the most stable place in these kids' lives. She has been a teacher since she was smaller than they are. But since when does being a teacher mean having to swear not to help? Since when does being a teacher mean having your hands tied while the schoolhouse burns to the ground? We are leading these children along a track built in circles as their lungs fill with smoke, telling them it is their fault. They can't find a way out.
Dylan Garrity from Slam MN.
The Young Turks making an appearance here. J.R. Jackson from the Young Turks will be with us for the next half hour. Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney from New York joining us a little bit later. Then we're going to take a look at the president's trip and his visit to Hiroshima tomorrow with Joe Cirincione from the Plowshares Fund. So lots more coming up. Stay tuned. And remember, you can give us a call anytime at 866-55-PRESS. Back with the Young Turks.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right, guys, I want to take the last part of the day to change our focus and talk a little bit about water. There's rivers, there's lakes, there's huge oceans. You get thirsty, you just go and you get some water, right? We rely on rain for our water. We even rely on snow. But what if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. I want you to tell your parents, your friends, your neighbors, how important it is to save water. It's up to you guys to save the planet. All right? What if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. It's up to you guys to save the planet.
Hi, I'm Mark LaFleur, and I produced the short film you just watched called Aquaforce. California is experiencing one of the worst droughts it's ever had, and now, more than ever, it's important for everyone to do their part to help conserve water. The reason I made this film is because I wanted to make something fun and informative that would get people talking about the California drought. Obviously, this is an important issue because we have a limited amount of clean drinking water. I think it was very important to let people know, especially young people, that this is an important resource, maybe our most important resource, and it's something that we can't take for granted and we certainly can't waste. I really wanted this to be something that children would respond to. The kind of thing that any kid anywhere in the world, no matter what language they speak, could understand the story and be entertained by it and leave it knowing that this is something important, that if they didn't already know about this, that it's now going to be a part of the way that they think about water, the way that they live life, and that it's something that they'll share with their friends. The fact that they watch this video once or twice and they immediately understand that water is important, that's it. That was the whole point of this thing, to get it into the conversation, to make it something that kids are thinking about, talking about, that they're aware of, and that they know is important. This project was self-funded, so we relied on the support of our community to make it happen. It was pretty amazing to just have our neighbors, our friends, and our coworkers come together and volunteer their time and their homes and their kids to make this thing happen. Thanks for checking out the video. Keep the Aquaforce going, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It was against the rules, but Hillary Clinton did it anyway. That's what the State Department Inspector General says yesterday in his report. Hello, everybody. The email report dominating the news today on this Thursday, May 26th. Good to see you today. It is The Bill Press Show, and we are booming out to you all across the great country of ours, coast to coast, on your local progressive talk radio station, of course, on TV, on Free Speech TV. How about it? You're looking at us on Free Speech. Good to see you. And worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday, where we will bring you up to date on the latest on that Hillary the Inspector General's report yesterday, also the latest on the president's trip now in Japan, and a very tense meeting with Prime Minister Abe last night. Bernie Sanders on the road in California, as well as Donald Trump trying to pick up the presence there in California, even though he, as unopposed, I think he has a good chance of winning the California primary. Look forward to hearing from you about what's going on in the news. 866-55-PRESS, you know our toll-free number. And you can also send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Our gang is all here this morning. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Happy Thursday.
Good morning. Indeed. Ray Rogers is here for your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, on the job. And we've expanded our team a little bit this morning here. We stole one of the young Turks. He happens to be in town, J.R. Jackson. We will not give him the day off. We forced him to go to work this morning and join us, and we are so happy to see you.
What's going on, fellas?
Hey, man. You tell us.
I was telling everyone I flew in last night. You know, we're out in L.A. I flew in last night, 9 o'clock. Had to go and get a burger, of course. There's a DC burger thing. I don't know.
We have a whole, like, boutique-y burger thing happening.
I thought it was chili at first when I came before. I thought it was a chili thing.
Yeah.
Well, Ben,
There's one chili place.
Okay.
There's only one chili place. Ben's
right?
Chili Bowl, yeah.
Yeah. Where'd you go for a burger? No.
Shake and something.
Shake Shack?
Oh, Shake.
No, it wasn't Shake. It was.
I know what you mean. In
Burger Shake and Tap?
Yes.
Oh, that's okay.
Right.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go.
On Washington Circle, right?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
whatever it's called.
Yeah. So
not bad.
our DC connection took us over there because we have a little DC office out here now. So I had to do that for a second. By the time I got to the hotel, I was like, okay, it feels like 7 o'clock to me. Gotta get some sleep. Bill Press does early show like we used to do.
Which means it feels like 4 a.m. for you now. Yeah.
That's when I got to sleep. 4 a.m. this time. And then I was like, I'm jumping up at 5:30 so I can make sure I get over here, you know.
Yeah, all right. Well,
an hour and a half of sleep. I mean, that's a Bill Press schedule.
Yeah. So Cenk is coming in today?
Cenk's coming in today, and we're going to catch up with him. And, you know, he's probably doing his rounds of craziness. Yeah, it's a multicultural correspondence dinner. And so, you know, they reach out to me and they're like, hey, you want to come out to? I said, I will come out to. Why not? I love DC.
Yeah.
You know, LA folks, we have this, I don't know if we have the reputation, but I know this is the way it is. We don't like anything but Los Angeles. Because anything everywhere else gets somewhere below 60 degrees. So we're like, what's going on there? So DC is one of the few cities. Like, I love visiting every city, but I always think when I'm there, could I live here? I don't know why, it crosses my mind in case you ever have to, right? And D.C. is the only city I've been to where I was like, I could live here.
Well,
Nice.
Having come from L.A. to D.C. 16 years ago, I can tell you, it's
fits,
possible.
right?
You can make the transition.
What do you
But
know?
I'll tell you, I still get nostalgic and homesick whenever I get back to L.A.
Yeah, I'm sure you
I'd go
can't.
back in a flash. Absolutely. We got lots going on here with JR's here for the first half hour. Danny Vinnick from Politico will join us. In the next hour, Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney from New York, as well as Joe Cirincione from the Plowshares Fund. And we'll get right to it. Find all the latest from California and all about the Young Turks. But first,
This is the Full Court Press.
Oh, yeah, just a couple of other stories making news. JR, you're talking about a place you could live in D.C., you could move to D.C. Here's an idea. You can move to the Kalorama neighborhood in Washington, D.C., which is where the Obamas are going to move once they leave the White House. They plan to move to a mansion in Kalorama about 2 miles away from the White House. They said they are going to stick around until Sasha completes high school, which will be in 2018. So they are renting out an 8,200 square foot, 9-bedroom home that is owned by Joe Lockhart, former press secretary here in Washington, D.C. Zillow estimates that the rent is $22,000 per month. The house itself is valued at around $6 million.
all I got to say is I knew Joe Lockhart when he worked at the DNC and didn't have a dime, and I used to buy him lunch. And here he is now. He's got the $8,200 square foot mansion and renting it to the Obamas because he's living in some freaking penthouse in New York City.
That's right.
God bless America.
That's it, man. Absolutely.
I'm going to find that route.
It's a pretty good move. In San Francisco, they have a new gym that just opened up. It's called the Power Plant Fitness. Okay, and here is the rub. They want you to come and work out and also smoke pot. They say that there's a whole lifestyle that I'm not.
I don't think the two of them go hand in hand.
I haven't quite reached the phase in my life of smoking pot and lifting weights, but some people have apparently. And they want to get high and work out. And so they encourage that. They do point out that they are more focused on fitness than getting high. But if you want to get high,
then it's okay.
No,
I've at college, I never did anything, but like I've always been open to all of them. I'm fine with anyone doing it. I had plenty of friends who they smoked every day.
Yeah.
So I've learned a lot about it. But even lately, I didn't know there's strains and streams, whatever you want to call it, right? I'm gonna show you how much I don't know about it. Where it actually is like an upper feel, but you're kind of high.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is a strain you use when you go work out. You get kind of hype. Smoke your weed, get high.
I just think of smoking pot just the other way.
So there's sativa. You're right. There's sativa.
Calming down rather than
getting pumped.
Yeah. There's sativa where you can like do things, but you got to head high, and then there's indica, which is better known as indicouch, because you don't really want to do anything. So you got to be careful. You don't want to.
How do you know so much about all that?
I read a lot. And Bernie Sanders is still in the race. One person that's happy is in the race is Larry David. Bernie Sanders actually talking about Larry David's portrayal of him on Saturday Night Live with the Associated Press. Bernie Sanders saying, Larry, I am deeply concerned about unemployment in America, and I want you to keep your job on Saturday Night Live. So he wants Larry David to keep going as Bernie Sanders, so he's going to do what he can to keep winning.
Right. Now, Larry David is a mean Bernie Sanders impression, right? But we want to remember that Bernie Sanders also does a very mean Larry David impression. Here, it's talking about emails. Here is Bernie Sanders imitating Larry David last October.
Let me say something that may not be great politics, but I think the secretary is right. And that is that the American people are sick and tired of hearing about your damn emails.
Thank you. Me too.
Isn't that right out of Saturday Night Live? That is the thing. Oh, God, that's so funny. Yeah.
I was listening closely for a while.
Yeah. So, Young Turks, you guys have been so hugely successful online. I mean, just amazing. I didn't realize you've been around now since 2000. You launched
since
in 2002.
Yeah, it was one of those things because, as you guys know, Cenk Uygur, the host, created the whole thing.
Yeah,
he was a Republican. He said this many times also, up until when W. Bush got elected. As he said, he looked around And he's like, what? What? And he felt like it was one of those beginning things where he said, this is the beginning of the end for at least me, because he always saw himself as a free thinker, and he's going to approach things this way. And he thought that route was with the Republican Party. That was part of a little bit of just the way he came up, And similarly with me, because my parents are super Christians. My father, I grew up in the church, Southern Baptist Church. My father's pastor, all this stuff. Not pastor, but a reverend in the whole system. I don't know if everyone knows the system. But
as a recovering Southern Baptist, I'm with you.
Right?
Yeah, I'm with you.
So he that all began then. But in 2002, I started with these guys as an intern. I was a sports guy. I just graduated from USC, and I came in thinking, we can. It was a kind of do what you want. We're started with Sirius XM. We can do a little sports segment, sports with J.R. Jackson. I was like, let's do it. So I was doing that, and then we kind of had to do the job of a bunch of people. And eventually, Jenk says, he's all he thinks and breathes is politics. He's like, I need some help. So you guys want to, it was Jesus and I. Jesus is out here for the event too. He's our director. And so I started getting more into the political side of it. And I was thinking, I don't care. In 2000 was the first election I could have voted in as an adult, obviously. So that one, I didn't care. I remember thinking, I could go vote.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. And I think back to that, and I was like, what a fool that guy was, right? Yeah. But then I think it helps because the way the whole team formed, at that point there was 4 of us with TYT, and 5 of us, sorry. And the way we've connected with some people online is because there's a knowledge of who they are and who we are and who we were and who they are and where they've been. It's like people have grown with us and we've known them.
You've all grown together.
Yeah.
So all right, now what's happening in California now on the scene? I mean, with this California primary, I really regret not being out there for this primary because this first of all, the California is going to count this year.
Yes.
Before. We were always so late, nobody cared.
But even leading up to it, there's so much conventional wisdom. We were leading up to that going, how many times we heard the Bernie Sanders should drop out, and it should be that way again. So again, it was one of those things where in primaries, we don't think about, I can vote, and it actually means something. We think, and even people who are a little upset at whatever, say we're on the Democratic side, whatever candidate they want to vote for, they'd be like, I can vote for the Green Party. I can vote for this guy. It doesn't matter because I know where it's going to go anyway. But it counts. It means something. It's going somewhere, and it's a huge state, as we know.
And Bernie, every time he is everywhere. I mean, you must being in L.A. He's been in Santa Monica, of course, but he's also been. I mean, like Vista. He's been in San Bernardino. He's been in Ventura. He's been in Fresno and Bakersfield and. I don't know where he hasn't been.
And toured around areas when he's in Northern California. You think, okay, maybe he'll do Oakland, San Francisco. Then Vallejo.
Vallejo. I'm telling you, there are candidates for governor of California who have not been to some of the cities Bernie Sanders has been to. Right.
And again, it's one of those things. So and we talk about this phenomenon that's Bernie Sanders. And I guess, again, another similarity, you gotta get to where people usually don't go. To where people go, wow. So a presidential candidate's coming here? He cares what we're doing here, and I think that's a good look because, I mean, it doesn't just speak to that one small community or maybe overlooked community, but people who are looking nearby and going, wow, really? Even though he didn't come to where I am, he's nearby. Maybe I'll shoot over there. It's like when someone goes on tour, if they only go to New York, Chicago, L.A., and Miami, then people in other smaller towns are like, we have money too. Yeah. So if you broaden out your tour, you're gonna get other people that aren't even right in there.
Do you think Bernie could win California?
I didn't think so until I started looking at these polls lists. So I mean, because again, it's the approach to politics that I always relate back to when I was 20. Is you kind of just listen to what the overall people are saying and go, oh, that's the way it is, and you move on.
So it's changed, right? So you're no longer. I hate to break this, a millennial, right?
No. I think I'm on.
Welcome.
I was on the cusp, right?
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people who's embraced my old age. I'm 36, and I looked up the map
over the hill.
I start with those guys when I was 22 and an idiot. So, I've embraced the way I approach life, and I talk about. We see a lot of millennial stories, and we do all that stuff. But I'm always thinking, millennials, those whippersnappers don't know what they're doing.
What is your take on the millennial fascination with Bernie Sanders.
He's well, people like the off the cuff, the seemingly off the cuff, the approach that he has to things. Right, everyone loves that. It's why I loved Joe Biden in 2008 at first, but there's an off the cuff feel. He speaks to them and what their issues are. And not in just the same sound bites. Yes, we do see him repeat a lot of things over and over again because that's what you do when you campaign, obviously.
You have to.
But, and everyone doesn't hear it all the time. I hear it all the time because I listen to it all the time. So you think, man, he's saying this again? But to that next community, they're like, I've never heard anyone say this. So it's just a matter of listening. The way the political scene, I feel like, has changed. It's a representative system. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's gone from that to leaders of parties and leaders of people that get elected start telling the constituents what they want on TV.
Yeah.
If they go on any of these cable news shows, they go, you know what the people of Texas want? Why are you telling me? How about you ask the people of Texas?
Instead of asking.
Yeah, so it's their way of forming what they want people to think, and then they know people are just going to work, and then they have no time to sit and analyze everything that's happening. So instead they go, I guess I'm the people of Texas. I want what he just said I want. But we've lost it. We've lost our control.
I think there's an authenticity, the maybe overused word about Bernie too, which I think people appreciate, right?
Yeah,
he's for real.
Yeah, and the thing is, you'll see some of the things, you'll expect it. As I think someone was asking you, what do you think his approach was going to be to the email? The latest email smackdown, as everyone's talking about. And they're like, is he going to change? Are they going to play that old soundbite from one of the first debates where he said, people are sick of hearing about your damn emails, right? But then when you ask him, I'm still on that. We're not talking about that. That's not what our campaign is about. We're talking about what we're talking about because we actually mean it, not just because it's politically
equality. We're talking
convenient.
about minimum wage. We're talking about jobs. We're not going to be detracted by this other crap.
Absolutely, because that's what we actually want to do. So people hear it and they go, he wants to do it.
Right, exactly. J.R. Jackson with us from the Young Turks, of course, the TYTnetwork.com. Here on the Bill Press Show, our brother on talk radio and online everything, in the media. In progressive politics as well. We'll be right back. Shoot a question in if you want at 866-55-PRESS.
Can't catch the entire show? Listen to BP in 3, where we turn 3 hours into 3 minutes. Find it every day at BP Show on Twitter or at BillPressShow.com.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine.
Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek. Newtown.
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 How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. Enough. Enough.
Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour, J.R. Jackson here with us from the Young Turks TYT Network.
Yes.
I just saw this headline. Hillary Clinton on Latino voters, 67. Donald Trump, 23. Can you believe that the Republicans have actually going to go out there with Donald Trump?
It's I don't think they can believe it either. But he's a product of their own doing. But then you look up and you say, how did this happen? Well, just think back to the way things have been going, the approach to politics that has been, and I feel like it's been forever, but it's probably always been that way. But it's just we have this culture in America about one team and this team and win and lose, and if you're not on this team, you're a fake one. Like if you're rooting for the Warriors and they lose a couple games like they have in the NBA playoffs, and then if people start going, oh well, it's over, you're gonna go, you fake fan. So then if you start saying anything else, you're a fake supporter, and then now you have to support this guy.
And you're right. They don't have any choice. But I like what you said. He is a product of their own making. Mm-hmm. They got nobody to blame but themselves.
They thought it was just fun and games.
Yeah.
No. Now you have to work with this.
Right. Guy.
Yeah. But he's going to, I think, prove whether you can insult your way to the White House, because that's basically all he does, right? Doesn't talk issues. He just insults people.
And when people ask the questions about the specifics, then he moves on and comes to some kind of insult or just moving on to, trust me, believe me, bottom line, big time.
Yeah, all right. Well, believe me, it's been fun having you in the studio. Congratulations again on the big awards, and I give our best to Cenk, and we'll be watching. TYT.
Thank you.
Young Turks.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am
I am
tired,
tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour now. Here we go, The Bill Press Show, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Booming out to you coast to coast on your local progressive talk radio station. And on Free Speech TV, we're brought to you today by the International Association of Firefighters, the good men and women of the IAFF under President Harold Schaitberger. We depend on them, and they do a great job protecting us coast to coast. First people we call on, and there they are.
Yeah.
Putting on the uniform every day to keep us safe. We salute them for the good work. Thank them for their support of the program. You can check out their good work at IAFF.org. Keeping its track on policy issues here in Washington, D.C., both at the White House and in the Congress and in the federal agencies. We tell you often there's no better source than Politico. We're on it all day long, and the assistant editor for Politico Agenda, Danny Vinnick, joins us in studio this morning. Danny, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
How long have you been at Politico?
About a year now.
Really? All right. Right out of high school?
Just look that way.
Sorry. Smart ass. Well, it's good to have you here. And you've been you keep focused on not the political stuff so much as the policies. right?
Yeah, the agenda is kind of this policy magazine we do online at Politico. So we get to go in different issues of the day, talk about what's going on in the federal government, what's happening in Congress, why these things really matter to you, and take a moment to kind of take you deep inside some of these policy topics.
Does it get frustrating that there's so little policy kind of discussion going on in Washington these days?
It can a little bit, but at the same time, there's always things to find. I mean, at the end of last year, there was a lot of activity around education and transportation, plus the omnibus bill always has a lot of things in it like that. And there's always little movements on policy issues happening. So while, there aren't big bills coming down the way, there are still little things happening across the government that are interesting to poke into.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's refreshing to know, right? But it's hard to find. Any serious discussion of policy issues these days. I mean, let's take this year. This is an election year. As a member of the White House press corps, for example, I go to the briefings. No, the briefings don't really matter almost anymore. The room is half full, and because so many people are out covering the candidates, and so many of the questions relate to, oh, Donald Trump said this today. What do you think? Or Bernie, would you support that, right? Or that kind of stuff. So in terms of real government, serious policy work, it's almost an afterthought these days.
Yeah, you have to look in more specific areas. Agencies are still doing things. They're still producing rules in different areas. You can look there. There are still some bills moving on the Hill. There are some, people are putting out legislation just to try to set the ground for next year when maybe there's more area to get something done.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to start venturing into the realm of what Trump said this day or what Trump said this day, you're not going to find a ton there. It doesn't make much sense, right? And so, there are areas to look. It's not going to be the top headline things, I think, but that doesn't mean there aren't policy things happening beneath the surface that can matter.
All right, so like this year, this election year, let's take the Congress. What are there 2 or 3 policy areas that they're looking at, considering, where we might see some action on?
I think the biggest movement right now is on Puerto Rico. This is more of a crisis situation. So we're seeing a little bit of action yesterday. The House Natural Resources Committee marked up a bill to help save Puerto Rico and try to reform it in different ways that would help it. So that's something that was like a pretty contentious issue that's been going back and forth. It's been the White House working with Speaker Paul Ryan on it and
right.
some of the committee members. And they're trying to get this done before the summer because Puerto Rico is obviously in dire straits and needs some help. It's not something that you're going to get. It gets some headlines at this point. It's not a huge amount of headlines. If you look at most websites, Trump is the top news of the day all the time.
Yeah, right.
But this stuff matters. It's 3.5 million Americans down in Puerto Rico who are really struggling, and they really need some help. And so if you can look at what's happening.
And they are Americans in Puerto Rico.
They are Americans.
Yeah, right. So what are the options there? Is it bailing out Puerto Rico?
If you read some of the ads, listen to some of the ads that are happening, they'll call it a bailout. That's not really what's on the table. The bill that was put forward right now basically creates a control board that would basically take governance away from the elected Puerto Rican officials down there and put it in the hands of a 7-person control board that is mostly chosen by members of the majority parties in Congress and also by the president. And they would be able to try to put Puerto Rico on a better fiscal track while also having the authority to go through a restructuring process for some of the bonds. And there are a lot of other minor details on the side there too, but the basic goal is to try to get Puerto Rico on a better fiscal track while also reducing its debt load and trying to get some type of negotiated settlement with the debtors.
Now, has this bill passed the Senate?
No.
No, okay. It's being considered in the House now.
Yeah, it just passed committee yesterday.
Right. And this is the plan that the White House has more or less endorsed, correct?
Yeah, they've worked with the committee members to try to get something together, and they are, I would say, they support it. They don't love it, but it's a kind of compromise they've agreed to.
Right. And this is the bill that Bernie Sanders opposes.
Exactly.
Because it sounds to me like they want to treat Puerto Rico the same way they treat Washington, D.C.
Yeah, Washington, D.C.
A control board. Yeah, right. We're going to take the authority away from local officials. We're going to give it to a control board. And we will decide in Washington, our little committee, what's good for the people of Puerto Rico.
How do you say taxation without representation in Spanish?
In Spanish, yeah. No, I think it stinks, the whole idea. But
D.C. had a control board for itself 15, 20 years ago. And actually, most people think it was fairly successful. But I wrote a story on this a few weeks back as well about the differences between having a control board in D.C. and having a control board in Puerto Rico. D.C. still has a very, pretty tight connection with the federal government. We're all, following it pretty closely. We all know people who either work in it or work on the Hill. It's just a very much tighter connection. That's not the case with Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, you're going to have all these officials flying down from Washington who have very little connection with the island whatsoever, and they're going to come in, parachute in and make whatever changes they need to make. And getting that popular support that is pretty necessary to actually have this thing turn around is much more challenging when you have this sort of parachuting idea in, and you don't have the residents who think that these people really understand the location.
Yeah, I would think if I were living in Puerto Rico, I wouldn't want that at all. I think so. And it's interesting. I mean, Bernie, in this case, taking on the White House and taking on again the political establishment, sort of in what looks to be like the preferred track. And it's also interesting that all this debate is going on a week before the Puerto Rico primary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
and they have more delegates than I thought. About 30-some delegates, I believe.
Oh,
in
wow,
Puerto
really?
Rico.
No
yeah.
kidding.
You say 3.5 million people.
Yeah, it's not an insignificant number. I will say on Bernie's point, I mean, he basically has come out and said that the Federal Reserve should come down and help Puerto Rico as they did with different banks during the crisis.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of where he's pushing on it. And he certainly does not support the control board. He doesn't think the legislation would be a good idea. The Fed chairwoman, Janet Yellen, has come out and said basically that the Fed can't help here. There's an academic dispute about whether it actually has the legal authority. The Sanders campaign will say it does. The actual Fed says it doesn't. So in terms of whether help is coming from the Fed, given that the chairwoman has said it's not, I wouldn't be holding my breath on that route.
Yeah.
In which case, then you do have to turn your attention to Congress and see what can actually get through here.
No. Well, we could help Goldman Sachs, right? Or Lehman Brothers or whomever, but we can't, or Citibank, but we can't help Puerto Rico. No, too bad. They're not on Wall Street. But saw a story that you've done, speaking about policy issues, overtime, the president's overtime rules. This was one area where he decided couldn't get anything through Congress and asked the Labor Department to look into it. And those rules came out. Now, are they in effect now? And your point is that there may be less there than meets the eye, or there may be some problems. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so they're not in effect yet. They'll come into effect at the end of this year, basically. But they are finalized at this point. So the final rule has come out. So we know what they are. We know what it does. My story was on some of the random exemptions from the overtime rule. And these aren't exemptions the administration has put forward. These are exemptions in the underlying law, the Fair Labor Standards Act, that was passed in 1938. And basically, back in the 30s, in order to get this through, there was a lot of political compromises made in terms of who was covered by the minimum wage, who was covered by child labor laws, and by overtime laws as well. And a lot of random jobs basically were exempted from it, and it stuck through to today. So, for instance, a lot of transportation industries, a lot of truck drivers, airline pilots, railroad employees are not covered by overtime, as well as like farm workers and domestic workers as well, were two other groups left out.
What? They were carved out originally from the original legislation?
Yes.
And so they're still carved out, in other words.
Yeah.
Well, when they redid the rules, why didn't they?
It's congressional decision. It's carved out in the statute, so the administration has no authority to override it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
No,
that's remarkable.
It doesn't seem to make any sense. Why shouldn't truck drivers get paid for overtime?
What's
or airline? First of all, do you want airline pilots flying overtime? Probably not.
Right. True. True.
Right.
We might have.
There might be other rules there.
Yeah.
I think there are other rules there.
Yeah.
Right. But just to say that certain jobs would just simply be exempt.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just thinking, like firefighters. If they're putting in all that extra time, they should get paid extra.
There's an exemption for firefighters who are in firehouses with less than 5 people.
Jeez.
So, yeah, and well, that stinks. But so the only way to fix that is for Congress, right, to say no, these rules should apply across the board. But if they do that, then in effect they're endorsing President Obama's executive order. I guess. Was it executive order that he did it by? Yeah.
And there's no specific. No one really wants to open up the Fair Labor Standards Act that much. It's going to be so controversial if you start going in there, and you can try to do little things, but every fight like this is a gigantic fight. I mean, overtime pay can be extensive. You have millions of workers at this point who are not covered by it through these exemptions that are relics from the 1930s for various different reasons. And there might be a little support on the sides for doing something about it, but it's not something that's talked about. It's not something that's brought up. I talked to some people who follow the issue fairly closely, and there's just not much going on there in terms of actually any movement to change this.
My question when I saw these was, who enforces these? You know, you work for a little print shop or something, out in Des Moines, Iowa, and you have to put in all these extra hours, and you feel you deserve the overtime.
I mean, that's one of the biggest challenges.
Who do you go to your boss, and he says, "Screw you! I'm not going to do it." What do you do?
I mean, there are people within the labor department who are supposed to go check up on these things and audit places and make sure that they are working correctly and that they are following these laws. But with the cutback in funding that's happened across the federal government, the number of investigators has gone down. The number of resources has gone down to look into this. And this is a serious problem. I mean, misclassification of workers is another huge area where employers have tried to take advantage of some of the lack of oversight to find ways to skirt these laws.
So you'd have to file a complaint somewhere, somehow. The Department of Labor come back to Washington. I don't know. I mean, it's not self-enforcing at any rate.
Yeah, it's a huge challenge.
Yeah, indeed. Danny Vinnick here with us from Politico. Politico Agenda is Politico.com. We are searching. We are doing our best to look for areas where there could be some progress in public policy this year in Washington, D.C. Don't hold your breath. The question or comment, 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, at 11 minutes before the top of the hour, Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney from New York At the top of the next hour, followed by Joe Cirincione from the Plowshares Fund. I want to talk to Joe about the G7 meeting in Japan, where the president is, his visit to Hiroshima tomorrow, and also about the president's decision to start selling military equipment to Vietnam. So let's talk about with Joe up in the next hour. Right now, we're talking what policy proposals are underway here, or initiatives are underway in Washington, D.C., with Danny Vinnick, who is assistant editor for Politico Agenda. You know, I was thinking during the break, in terms of the contrast between policy and pure politics, Paul Ryan, Donald Trump. No wonder they're having a hard time kind of coming together, right? Because, I mean, if anything, Ryan is the ultimate policy nerd, isn't he?
And Trump is as well, right?
Yeah, my point was just the opposite. He would know policy if it bit him in the butt, right? You know? And so, Ryan wants to know, where do you stand on this, on this, on this, on this, on this? And
I can't imagine how those meetings go.
No, right.
It's tough for them because his positions change so often that it's difficult
too.
to. I mean, even if you're in a meeting with him, Speaker Ryan's in a meeting with him, and he says he'll be doing one thing, he'll go out the next day and say something different, and which is real. I mean, how are you supposed to know? I don't have an answer there. I don't think anybody does, and so it makes it difficult to analyze anything or understand how he, would actually do things as president.
No, and from what we've heard, I think Ryan realizes that, and he's given up, and is expected. In fact, there was a rumor that it might even happen yesterday, that Ryan was just basically going to throw in the towel and say, okay, you win, I lose, I'll endorse you. And then, because I think he realizes he'll never get Trump to do what Ryan would like him to do, is to sit down and come out with a definite set of policy proposals, and so that we would all know where he stands on Social Security, where he stands on the minimum wage, where he stands on Medicare, or whatever issue. Where he stands on guns in the classroom, for example.
Ryan has been building a very certain policy platform for years that he was hoping to get a presidential candidate in 2016 to run on. Yeah. And, I mean, he's still going to get Trump to try to sign on for that. But
he'll try. But, I think it's a horrible agenda anyhow. But now I do want to ask you quickly, though, about you have also written about a program we featured here on the show once about Washington's doing some very unique things in terms of water reclamation. And
yeah, DC Water, which had its own version of a lead crisis about 10, 15 years ago, and it was bad here, and it arrived with Flint levels. But in 2009, George Hawkins, who's now the head of DC Water, took over, and he has really turned the thing around. And DC Water is now like a leading innovator in this area. And the one big program they have is they're basically turning sewage into energy. So all the wastewater that comes down from the city gets collected at this plant across the Anacostia, about 5 miles south of DC. And it goes through all these different processes with these big digesters and some of these innovative new techniques that they got from the Netherlands, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. And after all, it goes through this entire process, and it produces energy in the form of methane gas. And they have a power plant on site that produces enough energy to run the whole plant, and it's clean energy. And the actual cool thing they're doing, so I was there a few weeks ago, and they were about to announce this new soil amendment product called Bloom, which after they produce the methane gas, they're still left over with this biosolid that is now all clean and it is sterilized, and they're converting it into a soil amendment so that they can sell it and produce more revenue and therefore lower rates.
Sell it to farmers or whatever. So
it's in a little bit of test stage right now, but it's exactly what they're trying to do.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And we had someone in for, what was it? It was National Infrastructure Week or something.
Yeah. Or last
this woman
week,
came in from San Francisco, and we were asking her about cities around the country who are doing innovative things, and she said #1 city in the country is Washington.
Yeah.
Who would have thunk, right?
Everyone talks about George Hawkins as this kind of visionary guy, and you talk to him, and you guys had him on the show. He's so passionate, and so
he really is.
It's incredible to talk to him about this stuff because he is so knowledgeable and so interested in it that it's tough to make you not interested in it.
I'm glad Washington is doing something right. Well, Danny, keep poking away at the policy stuff, and someday people will pay more attention. Great to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be right back.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
you wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
I know 2 hours is never enough. That's why we have a third hour coming up. And remember, you have to wait around for that third hour on Free Speech TV until 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific. But you can catch it right away, immediately, live on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney from New York State will be joining us, as well as our foreign policy guru, Joe Cirincione of the Plowshares Fund, coming up on hour number 3. When Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney from New York will join us at the top of the next hour. And then we'll visit with Joe Cirincione from the Plowshares Fund on the president's trip to Asia. And by the way, Thursday's just about over for him in Japan, but he spent the day after visiting a shrine this morning. He spent the day with his fellow G7 world leaders at the summit meeting there. Several working sessions and a working lunch and a working dinner. Tomorrow, the president goes down to Hiroshima. We'll be right back with hour number 3 on this Thursday,
This is
May
the
26th.
Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. Our whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation of supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
She broke the rules. That's what the State Department Inspector General says, but she did not break the law. Hello, everybody. What do you say? Thursday, May 26th. It is the Bill Press Show. Good to have you with us today as we come to you wherever you are in this great land of ours, booming out to you from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, on the radio and on television, on the radio, on your local progressive talk radio station. Good to see you in Radio Land today, on television, on Free Speech TV, coast to coast, and we look forward to hearing from you wherever you are, whatever the issue is. Give us a holler at 866-55-PRESS. That's our toll-free number, 866-55-PRESS. We'll get you on the air so you can sound off about the issues of the day. Also, look forward to hearing from you on Twitter, at BP Show, and on Facebook, at facebook.com/BillPressShow. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson leading our team here today.
Hello.
Good morning. Coverage of the issues, everything from President Obama's trip to Japan to the latest with the email report from the State Department Inspector General on Hillary Clinton, latest from the campaign trail in California between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton as well. Ray Rogers. We'll take your calls at 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Bolden keeping us on the air on our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV, and on Free Speech TV. It was as soon as it broke, the Inspector General's report yesterday was the big news of the day. As I mentioned briefly, it does say that Hillary Clinton's not correct when she says she didn't break the rules at the State Department. It says that she did, and she didn't ask permission to use her own private server. But it also points out she's not the first Secretary of State to do so, that there are very lax rules at the State Department which have existed for a long time and should have been fixed but weren't, and most importantly, that she did nothing illegal. She may have broken the department rules, but no criminal activity, no illegal activity. Hopefully that will help put that to rest, but maybe not. It could continue as Stephen Colbert kind of got into last night with his take.
This morning, the State Department finally released their report on her use of a private email server. They found that she did not ask permission, and if she had, the answer would have been no, which is one of the top reasons not to ask permission, by the way.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Even when you do give Hillary Clinton a firm no, what she hears is, try again in 8 years. The report...
All right, so lots going on. We're going to, at the half hour, we're going to be joined by Joe Cirincione from the Plowshares Fund to talk about the president's trip to Asia. But delighted to start the hour here with outstanding congressman from New York's 18th Congressional District, Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney. You remember a week or so ago, the Republicans almost made a big mistake. They almost voted to protect LGBT Americans from discrimination in the workplace. Then they realized, oh my God, we can't stand up for tolerance. We can't stand up for anti-discrimination. And they flipped their vote, but the good congressman is not giving up. He's still fighting the good fight. And joining us on our newsline, Congressman Maloney, good to have you with us this morning.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Thank you. So what's the latest? So, by the way, what were the Republicans asleep at the switch when they voted in support of gay rights? They must have been shocked to find out when that vote first came down, huh?
Yeah, well, you summed it up pretty well. I mean, I think what happened is, for a minute there, they were letting the majority of members of the House of Representatives vote the way they wanted. And when they saw that my amendment had won, and, God forbid we were going to extend workplace protections to, LGBT Americans, the Republican leadership literally came running onto the floor, twisted arms, broke bones, and flipped 7 votes back the other way, so it lost. But I'm happy to report that after they rigged that vote, the hue and cry in the districts of these switchers, these guys that, snatched discrimination from the jaws of equality, the outcry was so loud, and the American people let their voices be heard, that last night they let me make my amendment again, and this time we got not 36 Republicans, we got 43, and it passed. So we won this fight last night after a week in which, they showed their true colors, but the American people demanded fairness. So it was an exciting night last night, and we actually reinforced the president's executive orders prohibiting workplace discrimination. We won this fight.
That is so encouraging. Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you. It's exciting. It's exciting when the people make their voices heard and people get to actually vote their conscience, isn't it?
So this was, Congressman, this was the same amendment, right, that had been up before and then shot down at the last minute? Right?
That's exactly right. And what happened is Bruce Poliquin up in Maine and David Young out in Iowa, these guys who had switched their votes, they got their heads handed to them by local editorial boards and other people that said, what the heck are you doing? And they came back to Washington on Monday, said, we're getting killed. Yeah. And the Republicans realized that, you can't beat up on LGBT people anymore in this country, that there's a lot of people who think it's wrong. And when people knew what they were doing, they kind of turned tail and ran the other way. And we got 43 of them to vote with us last night, and we won this thing.
But what I remember reading is it was Kevin McCarthy, right, was leading the fight on behalf of the leadership to get people to change their vote.
Yeah, it was a shameful display. I mean, if you remember that scene from The Untouchables where Al Capone goes around the table with a baseball bat, I mean, that's what Kevin McCarthy was doing a week ago on the House floor. And last night he had to sit there and silently watch as 43 Republicans voted with an openly gay member of Congress to protect gay people in the workplace, and it was thrilling.
Was Paul Ryan anywhere to be seen in this battle?
Paul Ryan, I think, has to decide, right, whether he wants to keep giving pretty speeches about an open process, or he wants to let a guy like Kevin McCarthy rig votes. I mean, they've been rigging votes on the Hill when people haven't been looking. And pretending as though they're running an open house. They showed their true colors last week, and I'm just happy we were able to shine a light on it. But the fact of the matter is this government is still rigged, right? And that's what bothers people in this country. It's not on the level. And every once in a while, you turn the lights on and you see what's going on, and the people make their voices heard, and that's when we win.
Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney, New York's 18th Congressional District, on our newsline this morning. So, Congressman, just so all of our listeners and viewers understand, now that this amendment will become law, what does it mean for the workplace?
Right. Thanks for letting me just spell it out. So people will remember a couple years ago, to his great credit, President Obama issued an executive order saying, if you're using taxpayer dollars, federal contracts, you can't discriminate against gay people. The same way you can't discriminate on the basis of race or religion or disability or gender. And, that seems pretty uncontroversial to a lot of us, but of course it created a big stir. Mm-hmm. These guys last week tried to write into the defense bill something called the Russell Amendment, which would have rolled back those executive orders. That's when we got in the fight.
For federal contractors to the military, I guess, right?
Well, no. Actually, the Russell Amendment applied to all federal contracting. It was much broader. They used the defense bills. No, bear in mind, there are 28 million Americans that work someplace where there's a federal contract or federal money being received, meaning this is a big, big part of the American workplace that was protected by President Obama's orders. Last week, the House Republicans, in the middle of the night, using the defense bill as a pretext and hiding under the excuse of religious tolerance the way they are in North Carolina and elsewhere, tried to roll that back. That's when I got in the fight. That's when we went at it with my amendment saying no, the president's executive order is solid and will be enforced. We lost round one. Everybody, they rigged the vote, and when people found out what was going on, we won round two last night, and so now the president's executive order has been protected.
Now, Congressman, you know that for several years there have been efforts, and we've talked to Congressman Jared Polis about this, to get ENDA passed in the Congress, which has been stalled. Does your success, do you think, bode well for maybe getting ENDA moving?
It absolutely does, because we know right now that there are 43 Republicans who, when allowed to do so, will vote for equality. And there's no reason to believe they won't vote for, basic employment and housing and other types of, protections for LGBT Americans if given the chance to do so. So when you ask about Speaker Ryan or Leader McCarthy, they're holding up right now something called the Equality Act, which would simply, make LGBT, put it on the same level as race and disability and religion in federal anti-discrimination policy. That's still not done. And for folks listening who may not believe this, there's something like 25 American states where it's still perfectly legal to be fired. And so, you believe it or not, we're actually educating.
Fired strictly because you are an LGBT American.
That's exactly right. Hey, Janice, heard over the weekend you married your longtime partner. You're fired. No, you've been doing great work, but we have to fire you because you're a lesbian. That is perfectly legal right now in dozens of American states. And so there is no protection for people. That's why the president did what he did to try to get at this problem. And so they're still holding that up, just the way they're holding up immigration reform and lots of other important measures that, if given a chance on the House floor, as we were given a chance last night, could actually win.
Yeah.
So they're still rigging this process, make no mistake.
I'm glad you pointed out that what we used to call ENDA is now the Equality Act. Isn't that right?
That's correct,
yeah,
and it's
right.
inclusive of gender identity, and it applies to lots of corners of federal law where there's still no protection for LGBT people. It's a really important piece of legislation, and as I think my amendment showed last night, we can get a majority on the House floor if the Republican leadership stops rigging the votes.
And I have to ask you this, Congressman, then we'll let you go. But yesterday you saw that several states, led by Texas, filed a lawsuit against the president's recent executive orders on for schools for transgender students. Why is that important?
I saw somebody with a T-shirt the other day that said, it wasn't about lunch counters in the 1960s. It's not about bathrooms today. The fact of the matter is this is just the latest effort by certain, backward elements in our society, reactionary elements, to stop basic progress towards equality. There's something that is terrifying to people in certain parts of our country around treating people equally. And, there's certain people who want to stand on the other side of the Edmund Pettus Bridge when people are marching towards equality. I don't get it. There's people who want to stand in the schoolhouse door when somebody's trying to walk a kid to school and have them treated equally. And right now, LGBT Americans are facing people on the other side of this bridge in that schoolhouse door as we march towards equality. It's wrong. And the good news is that the American people have figured this out. And we just need to keep working till we win. And we're going to win if, like last night, we're given a fair shot.
Good work. Great leadership, Congressman. Congratulations again. You have every right to celebrate today, and so do all Americans who believe in the Constitution of the United States and equality. Thanks so much,
Bill.
Congressman. Good to have you with us.
My pleasure.
He's a great guy. Good.
Great
How about
stuff.
Turning that thing around, man? I love it.
Amazing.
You know what? What I like is the people in their district shamed those guys
absolutely
into changing their vote. And they had 36 votes before, and they went, 7 of them went south. Now they upped it to 43 votes, and they all stood there last night, and we won that battle. Big victory for us all. We'll be right back.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is the story of my grandfather. When I was 19 years old, his right hand was crushed in a printing press. He was supposed to lose the hand, but a young doctor saved it just in time for the war. This is the story of the war. My grandfather repaired tanks. Behind the front lines, away from the cameras, he would pull pieces of dead men from the machines and send the machines back out to the field. This is the story of the war a decade later. Back then, you didn't talk about depression. There was no such thing as PTSD. When my uncle, age 7, asked him who won the war, my grandfather said, nobody. This is the story of my grandfather, the machinist. I have a newspaper from 1981, a story about the Nobel Prize for Physics, a photograph of the winner, a Harvard man standing by his machines. This man is not my grandfather. Beneath the photo, my grandfather has written, I designed and built almost everything in this picture. They worked together for 10 years, but my grandmother says the physicist never even remembered his name. If you asked that Harvard man, there would be no story of my grandfather, just a pair of disembodied hands. This is the problem with stories. They have to leave something out. The editor cuts a line and someone's face fades. The editor says 200 words or less and suddenly a whole family goes missing. The spotlight isn't about the light, it's how it makes everything around it dark. My grandfather's face is erased from every story. The machines survive, but the man who made them doesn't. The machines make the photo, but their maker is out of frame. But we choose where to point the camera. We can choose how to tell the story. We can choose which clothing the hero wears. I could tell you this is a story about a soldier, or I could tell you this is a story about the blue-collar man, but really, this is just the story of my grandfather. I did not know him. I was born too late, but my family tells me his name. Alfred Franzosa. I know that name might only live in this moment, that there are other stories with greater stakes, but still, I will tell you his name. I will repair this old machine. I will let my grandfather live again because I could not know him while he was living. Once, when he was younger than I am now, his right hand was crushed by a printing press, crushed by other people's stories. When it healed, he began to build. He used his hands to build tanks and his hands to build cradles. His hands were the last thing to touch dead soldiers and the first to touch his newborn sons. He built a good family, and that family built me, and now I use my hands to build his story. The story is not a eulogy. A eulogy seals the casket. A eulogy lets no air out. This story is a resurrection. Jesus was not resurrected by God. He was brought back by the people who told his stories. It does not take a miracle to raise the dead, to leave behind the tombstone and take the name with you.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
23 minutes after the hour. What is happening on the foreign policy front? What's happening with the president and his trip to the G7 summit in Japan? Joe Cirincione joins us to talk about that and a lot of other issues. From the Plowshares Fund at the half hour, just coming up very quickly here. Meanwhile, what's dominating the political news today, of course, is the report released yesterday by the Inspector General of the State Department, completing their investigation of Secretary Clinton's use of a private email server for all of her email, personal and professional, while she was Secretary of State. The Mark Toner, the Inspector General, coming out with his report, which on the one hand was very damning, saying that, the Secretary's been saying yes, I did this. Might not have been the smartest thing to do, but it was totally okay under the rules of the State Department. Mark Toner yesterday saying that was not the case. She knowingly violated existing rules of the State Department, and not only that, she didn't ask for permission to do so.
Senior State Department officials, noted in the report, said they wouldn't have approved her exclusive reliance on a personal email to conduct official business.
So he made actually 3 strikes against her, if you will. 1, broke the rules. 2, didn't ask for permission, wouldn't have gotten it if she had. And 3, she should have turned all of her emails over to the State Department upon leaving office, and she did not. Hillary Clinton's defense again last night was, I didn't do anything other people haven't done.
Just like previous secretaries of state, I used a personal email. Many people did. It was not at all unprecedented.
And she's right on one point. Not that there were many secretaries of state, but the Inspector General's report does say that she was not the first to use a private email server. Colin Powell had as well. And secondly, that the real problem was that the rules at the State Department were systematically loose, I think is the phrase that he used. But it just needed fixing and been around for a long time and wasn't really clear. And again, she was not the first one to bypass it because of some of those problems. Nonetheless, this is the last thing Hillary Clinton needed at this point in her campaign in 2016, 82 votes short of getting the total number of delegates she needs to be the Democratic nominee. And it certainly fuels the flames of those people, the Clinton haters, who say this disproves you can't trust her, this just proves that she's dishonest, or that the Clintons operate as if they're above the law. And it feeds right into the phrase that Donald Trump has already started to use about crooked Hillary, and boy, he jumped on it last night.
She's as crooked as they come. She had a little bad news today, as you know, from some reports came down weren't so good.
At least he didn't say that she walks like a penguin. He did say that about Mitt Romney yesterday. Yeah, he walks like a penguin.
So now, as retribution, Donald Trump shouldn't run, and he walks like a penguin onto the stage. You ever seen? Like a penguin. But it's all right. Who knows?
But the thing you got to add about this Inspector General report, as bad as it sounds, again, he does say that she concludes she was not the first one to do so, that the rules at the State Department were so kind of cockamamie that you can understand why somebody might try to get around them and do things their own way. And most importantly, that while she did break the rules of the State Department, she did not break the law. So those people who think this is going to end up with an indictment of Hillary Clinton, and we still have to hear from the FBI, but an indictment is just not simply going to happen. So it's serious on the one hand. On the other hand, hopefully this will help Hillary Clinton get this whole so-called scandal behind her. On the international front and the global front, how are we doing? Joe Cirincione's got the answers. He joins us next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine.
Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek.
Newtown.
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 How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
Enough.
Enough. Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 33 minutes after the hour, Thursday, May 26th. The Bill Press Show, live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, right here in the shadow of the Capitol Dome on Capitol Hills, where you find us. And we're brought to you today by the United Steelworkers International and their president, Leo Gerard. The United Steelworkers, believe it or not, North America's largest industrial union, representing 1.2 million active and retired members. Find out more about their good work and all the things that Leo Gerard is up to at usw.org. President Obama's historic mission to Vietnam and Japan this week. Joe Cirincione from the Plowshares Fund joins us whenever we have action on the global front. Joe, it's so good to see you.
Thank you, Bill. Pleasure to be here.
Congratulations on all your recent travels and success with the Plowshares Fund. So
Thank you.
President, first of all, the visit to Vietnam was
yes.
So Cuba and Vietnam, right, in 1 year for this president.
Well, of course,
very
Vietnam,
significant.
Very significant, and it really did mark a new stage in the relationship. Of course, we've normalized relations with Vietnam 20 years ago, and other presidents have gone there, so it wasn't that groundbreaking. But in some ways, this was part of the normalcy of the relationship now. To see the President of the United States in Ho Chi Minh City. You know, who would have thought that was possible?
Yeah.
To see the changes.
Just that sentence alone.
Exactly. Exactly.
Blows your mind.
But, you know, 20 years ago, there were a few thousand American visitors to Vietnam. Now there's 1 million a year, 500,000 a year that go to Vietnam. The trade has soared. They're one of our most significant trading partners now. And so, and as part of that, the president announced that he was lifting the arms embargo against Vietnam.
I wanted to ask you about that. Is that a good move? It made me a little nervous. Why should we be selling arms, introducing more weapons into what is already a very tense region?
Right. The pro side of the argument is, look, this is what you do when you have a normal relationship with a country. Even if we disagree with their policies, we sell them limited number of arms, and number two, it's not like they're going to be buying the most advanced fighter jets. They don't have the money, they don't have the need for that, they don't have the infrastructure for that. This will be giving them maritime weapons, which is in the U.S. strategic interest, some say, in order to counter growing Chinese movements in the South China Sea, which Vietnam opposes. The bad side of this is, look, they have a terrible human rights record. Why are we selling weapons to a country before they clean up the human rights records? And then the one you just mentioned. Is this the way to solve our issues with China? Do we want to further militarize the conflict? Aren't we fueling a potential military conflict rather than resolving this through diplomatic means?
So, Jane Fonda got a little different reception when she went to Vietnam.
Well,
it was a different time.
I was an anti-war activist at that time. You know,
as was I.
I was actually proud that she was going and saying, not all Americans are against you. We love the Vietnamese. That's how I felt. These people weren't my enemy. Why were we bombing them? Why were we killing over 1 million Vietnamese? For what? That's how I felt. Did she go too far? Right. She shouldn't have posed with the anti-aircraft gun.
Yeah.
Remember
that was what did it.
A step too far.
Sure.
It's like Dukakis going in the tank with the helmet. A step too far. Bad photo op.
Right.
But the impulse, I think, was correct then.
Now the president he's in Japan.
Yes.
A pretty tense meeting last night with a news conference with Prime Minister Abe over Okinawa.
Yes.
And what there have been several incidences of serious assault by Marines against Japanese women.
Yes.
Which the Japanese, I mean, they'd really like to get us out of Okinawa, right?
Yes.
Some of them, at any rate. I mean, that's been
yes, mainly the people who live in Okinawa. They have a lot of problems with the U.S. president. It's a huge military facility. And just a few days ago, this new incident broke where U.S. service personnel once again, this is a constant pattern, had abused and I think the allegation is raped a Japanese girl. This is an unresolved and ongoing tension between the U.S. and Japan.
And the Prime Minister raised it in a news conference with President Obama. And now, so they have the G7 meeting today.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow, talk about a historic visit. The president goes to Hiroshima. He mentioned this was asked about this in his news conference yesterday.
Our visit to Hiroshima will honor all those who were lost in World War II and reaffirm our shared vision of a world without nuclear weapons.
So, Joe, you have talked about the significance, remarkable, of an American president at Hiroshima.
Yeah. This is the first time a sitting U.S. president has gone to Hiroshima. The Japanese keep asking. This is the first time one has gone. So there'll be enormous historic significance, symbolic significance. It will focus world attention once again on the appalling destructive capability of even one small nuclear weapon. I mean, this was a small bomb, our first bomb dropped in combat. We don't have weapons this small anymore. Everything we have is 10, 30, 50 times bigger than that. The irony is that while he's going there, while he's contemplating the destruction from this one small weapon, he will have a few feet from him a military aide who will be carrying the nuclear football, which is the controls and commands for launching a big portion of the U.S. nuclear arsenal. About 975 warheads can be launched within minutes and delivered within 30 minutes, and that's the equivalent of 22,000 Hiroshimas. So the The president...
22,000?
Yes. Yes. 975 warheads.
Blow up the
330
planet.
megatons.
The planet, right?
If that destructive force was ever used, it would end human civilization. So you have to question, why does the President of the United States still have the ability to launch such a force, a world-ending force, within minutes? What military mission requires that? What geopolitical reality requires that kind of destructive force? It's an obsolete Cold War era doctrine that the president has not chosen to end.
So, if there's no...
I know.
I'm just thinking of his standing there. If he's not standing there with the purpose of, we will never do this again, why is he standing there?
Yeah. Well, in part, here's what I expect to happen. He said he's going to make short remarks, brief remarks. And you hear in that clip you just played, he's going to talk about war in general. Mm-hmm. I get that. And he's in Asia, where there are major unresolved issues with Japan's war in World War II. The Japanese have never apologized for many of the atrocities, like the rape of Nanking. I get that. So mourn everybody. But he could be doing a lot more. He's basically going to play it safe, play it general. It'll have some impact. Just reaffirming the goal of a world without nuclear weapons is powerful. Many here in Washington disagree with that goal, including his Secretary of Defense, including almost all his appointees in the Department of Defense, don't really think we should be getting rid of nuclear weapons. They're busy building more. So that's important. But he does have the opportunity. He could take 2 or 3 small steps. In my article in Defense One, I urge him to do that. You see a lot of articles urging him to actually act, do something. I'm afraid on that aspect, this visit is likely to disappoint.
What is his report card on getting rid of nuclear weapons?
Incomplete. Incomplete. He has secured and reduced a lot of the material in the world, so that he has made it harder for terrorists to get their hands on nuclear weapons. But as the New York Times says, it's a job half done. He leaves with that job incomplete. His biggest and its highest grade, his biggest accomplishment, is Iran. He stopped Iran from getting a bomb. First president since Ronald Reagan not to have a new nuclear weapon cross the a new state cross the threshold. Right. So that's a big accomplishment. But on the arsenal itself,
but in terms
minor
of
reductions.
Minor reductions, and aren't we in fact modernizing the arsenal? So
unfortunately,
in effect, we're amassing more nuclear weapons.
We're on a nuclear weapons spending spree. We are going to completely recapitulate the Cold War arsenal. We're going to replace every bomber, every missile, every warhead, build new production facilities. Obama's going to stick his successor with a $1 trillion bill for new nuclear weapons over the next 25 years, and we have no idea how we're going to pay for it.
Well, here's an idea. Why don't we just give nuclear weapons to Japan and to Vietnam and Mexico? I don't know. Donald Trump. That's his answer.
I see. You've been talking to the Donald.
Pretty frightening, isn't it?
Every U.S. president since Harry Truman, the president who dropped the first bomb, has tried to stop the spread of these weapons. We have never given these weapons to another country. We've never supported another country, even our close allies. We didn't think Great Britain should get it. We didn't think France should get it. We didn't want Israel to get it. We tried our best to stop these countries. It's insane to go around thinking that giving more countries nuclear weapons will somehow make the world safer. It'll make it a much more dangerous place.
Not to mention the insanity of suggesting we would use them on the battlefield.
Well, that's the trend that's happening now. This is actually, it's bad enough that President Obama is leaving with this legacy, being a nuclear buildup, but that some of these weapons are designed to be smaller, more precise, and therefore more usable. This is why Senator Dianne Feinstein opposes the new nuclear cruise missile that the Air Force wants to build. It's the least necessary and most destabilizing of the weapons. She says it's a first strike weapon. It's designed to be used in combat. So I wish President Obama would take Senator Feinstein's advice and cancel at least this one weapon system. $30 billion for a first strike weapon. We don't need it.
Just getting started here with Josie Tony from the Plowshares Fund. We got lots to cover. Plowshares.org. A question or a comment about this particularly the visit to Hiroshima, I think, which is just the one thing that's going to be remembered for always about the president's term in office. Very historic mission tomorrow, huge significance. 866-55-PRESS, you know the number. We'll be right back.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It occurred to me tonight, for the first time, that the long-winged insect that over and over again rams its body into the wood of my front door might not know what he's doing. He might not have a plan. Maybe that's just how he flies, and that is where the door is. And I remember you. The last time I saw you, a few weeks before we would graduate from high school, and a few days before you let a bullet dissolve on your tongue, dancing in a warehouse rave, sweat-drenched and strobe light battered, thrashing your arms back and thrusting them forward. The floor could get so bright and loud, we all slowed down to be more careful, but you kept dancing full sprint tornado, and sometimes you'd spin full weight into a wall and just spread your arms against it and sway back and forth like a lover reunited. This long-winged insect is not trying to get into the house. It doesn't know there is a house. Can't imagine a life beyond that door. All it can see is the light. You and I were both 17 when you died. And ever since then, I have envied you. How you are remembered for towering, unclaimed potential instead of living to look regret in the face. You didn't have to come home 3 weeks later and explain to your little brother why you took too much medicine. Your addiction is remembered as a tragedy, not a betrayal. Your suicide attempt became a suicide, not an unpaid hospital bill. And only tonight did it occur to me that maybe that night when you let your teeth touch metal, you might not have known what you were doing. You might not have had a plan. Maybe you had hit that door so many times you couldn't imagine it might let you through. I'm still ashamed to admit it, but I have always secretly believed you did it for me, that you wanted to show me that there is a way out of all of this. Not so that I would follow you, but so I would understand that every day that I am alive is a day that I choose to be alive. And when the music stops, you still get to keep on dancing. And when the light is so bright it blinds, you can dance with your eyes closed. And if in that dark you come up against a wall, you keep your arms out wide and you dance with the wall.
TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go now, 12 minutes before the top of the hour with Joe Cirincione from the Plowshares Fund. Joe, I want to come back to, I cannot prevent myself from asking the question because when I think of Hiroshima, and by the way, Nagasaki kind of gets lost in the mix here.
It's always second place.
Always, but how can you avoid the question, should we have done? The president says he's not, there's no apology.
Right.
Which I understand, right? But I don't know whose that is. I think
I do.
I
know whose it is.
But should we have dropped that bomb in the first place?
This has been an historic debate from even before we dropped it. Some of the scientists in the Manhattan Project, led by James Franck in Chicago, issued a report to the president, President Truman, saying, don't drop the bomb. We don't need to. Remember, we built the bomb because we thought the Nazis were going to get it.
Yeah.
We never thought we were going to actually use this thing. We just wanted to have a deterrent to stop Hitler from using the bomb. Well, we defeated Hitler. So what was the bomb for now? Japan didn't have a bomb program. There was no deterrent. But the moment this is really a lesson for what's wrong with our entire military-industrial complex. The momentum of the project was so strong that you couldn't stop it. Truman never actually signed an order to drop the bomb. He just didn't stop it. He just didn't stop the process that was already underway. He learned about the bomb a day after he became president.
But the argument is that the Japanese were so ruthless and it killed so many Americans, so many more Americans would have been killed had we not dropped the bomb.
I think the historical evidence is overwhelmingly against dropping the bomb. That the evidence is that is not what made Japan decide to surrender. It was the entry of Russia into the war a few days earlier. That's what really worried them and convinced them they couldn't win. And remember, we had already destroyed most of their cities. The reason we picked Hiroshima to drop the bomb is that we had firebombed almost all their cities. We had already burned down and destroyed 2/3 of Tokyo. So we had been doing mass killing of civilians on this scale for a long time. Mm-hmm. The Hiroshima bomb killed about 100,000 innocent men, women, and children. There was no military target. Many people think it was more demonstration to the Soviets of what we had than it was about ending the war. I know this is a big debate. I know I've talked to lots of people. George Shultz, who was on a marine transport boat to Japan, feels that bomb saved his life. The historical evidence indicates it wasn't necessary. Japan would have surrendered anyway.
And Nagasaki was just, well, we have another bomb, we might as well use it, or what was it?
The argument was that Japan hadn't surrendered yet. Let's show them that we will just keep doing this until they do. I understand the argument. Again, the secret diplomacy of the period indicates that the surrender talks were well underway. They were days away from making the announcement anyway. The bomb does not appear to it appears to be more of an excuse for the emperor than it was an actual motivation.
And history shows we are still the only nation on the planet ever to use a nuclear bomb, correct?
It's been 71 years. The president has never felt that he needed to use a bomb for any military mission since, nor has the leader of any other nuclear-armed nation. There are 9 of them at this point. It shows that these weapons do not actually have a military utility. If we hadn't dropped the bomb, there's a very big chance that we wouldn't have 15,000 nuclear weapons in the world now, that we never would have had the nuclear arms race that terrorized the planet for decades.
Just about a minute left, but the front page of the New York Times reports today that the platform committee of the Democratic Party in Philadelphia may be split right down the middle over support for Israel because of 2 people that Senator Bernie Sanders appointed to the platform committee: Cornel West, professor from Princeton, and Jim Zogby, whom we know here as a human rights activist in Washington, D.C. Is this going to be an important debate for the Democratic Party?
It is, and it's an important debate for the country. I think America's views of the Israeli occupation of the West Bank are changing. And I think it's important that the Democratic Party recognize that you cannot have peace as long as Israel is occupying another country, the country of Palestine. And I hope that view gets reflected in the platform. It's not anti-Israel; it's pro-peace.
Right. This debate, I believe we had the same debate in 2012, or maybe it was I think it was 2012 or 2008. And so it's not the first time the Democratic Party has had to accept maybe a platform that's somewhat critical of Israel.
We will always be Israel's strongest ally. We will always have this bond with Israel, but that doesn't mean that we have to approve everything they're doing. Friends can criticize friends.
Yeah, we can criticize our own government, right?
Yes.
But if you say anything critical of not Israel, of the Israeli government.
Of the Israeli government, of this
particular
particular
Then people jump all
government.
over you and say, you're anti-Israel, you're anti-Semitic or something.
The Likud government, which is now moving even further right. They ousted the right-wing defense minister and appointed an even further right-wing defense minister. So it's very disturbing what's happening.
Well, whatever I know, you'll be right in the middle of it. Joe Cirincione. But save some time for us. In fact, we'll be in Philadelphia, so we'll have to get you in.
Yeah. Great.
All right. Plowshares, Plough shares.org. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you,
Great
Bill.
to see you.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
letter to the girl I used to be. Dear Emily, every time I watch baseball, a voice I no longer recognize whispers, "Ethan, do you remember? When you were going to be the first girl to play in the Major League Seattle Mariners rally cap." But to be honest, Emily, I don't. Dad told me that like it was someone else's bedtime story. But I do know you had that drive. Didn't let anyone tell you to wear shorts above your knees. Didn't care if boys thought your hair fell on your shoulders just right, but with girls, sleepovers meant the space between your shoulder and hers was a 6-inch fatal territory. The year you turned 11 was the first time you said out loud that you didn't want to live anymore. In therapy, you said you wouldn't make it to 21. On my 21st birthday, I thought about you. You were right. At 19, you started to fade. I tried to cross you out like a line in my memoir I wished I could erase completely. And maybe I'm misunderstanding the definition of death, but even though parts of you still exist, you are not here. Most of my friends have never heard your name until now. I've been trying to write this letter for 6 months. I still can't decide if it should be an apology or not. But now you will never hear Emily Smith announced at a college graduation. Get married. Give birth. When the prescribed testosterone started taking effect, my body stopped producing the potential for new life every month. I thought about your children, how I wanted them too. I let a doctor remove your breasts so that I could stand up straighter. Now, even if I somehow had those children, I wouldn't be able to nourish them. My body is obsolete, scarred cosmetic, but never C-section. I was 4 days late. They will never be grandparents. I was 1 week late. They will never hold their lover's sleeping figure. I was 11 days late. They will never breathe in a sunset and a sunrise in the same night. I was 2 weeks late. They will never learn to jump rope. I was 3 weeks late. They will never shout, "Watch, Mommy, watch me on the slide." I was 2 months late. A piece of us will never wrap their arms around our leg for comfort, but just to keep them from falling down. And I am sorry that this process is so slow, and all you can do is wonder if you ever had a place. You did. You still do. Don't forget that. Yours, Ethan. P.S. I never hated you.
//
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is The Bill Press Show.
Well, just when Hillary Clinton thought maybe that the email scandal was fading, it came back with a vengeance yesterday with that report from the Inspector General of the State Department. Clinton haters immediately pounced on it, saying it proved that everything they'd been saying about Hillary Clinton was right. But if you really read carefully the report, it shows that Hillary was not the first Secretary of State to use a private server. Colin Powell had done it before her. That she'd already released 30,000 of her emails, and there was not one bombshell found in any of them. And while she may have broken the rules, she did not break the law. In other words, while Hillary setting up her own personal server might have been dumb, it was not illegal. That's it, folks. Dr. Julianne Malveaux here tomorrow as a friend of Bill.
This is the Bill Press Show.